These are stories of Christian teenagers who died for Christ. And the first story is the story of Yevgeny Rodionov, which actually didn't happen centuries ago, as you might think. Actually happened just 20 years ago. It happened in 1996 when Yevgeny Rodionov was beheaded for refusing to deny Christ. He was born in the Pancras region of Russia, where the Soviet Union's communist regime was being held, and Christianity, and all other religions for that matter, were strictly prohibited. In other words, you had to be atheist or you were... His mother Lubov was a living example of this, as she was atheist and had no religious instruction at all. But this wouldn't be the case for Yevgeny, because when he was 11, his Orthodox Christian grandmother gifted him a silver cross necklace, which from that day on, Yevgeny wore all the time. Against the wishes of his mother and his teachers, Yevgeny proudly wore the cross to school, showing his growing commitment to Christianity. This cross was with him everywhere, throughout his teenage years and his early adulthood years, until he eventually enlisted in the Russian army. In 1996, he was stationed on the border of Chechen as a part of the First Chechen War. But in February 1996, during a patrol, Yevgeny and his fellow soldiers were captured and ambushed by Chechen rebels who were hostile to Christianity. The captors demanded that Yevgeny and his fellow soldiers denounce Christianity and convert to Islam. When this didn't work, Yevgeny endured horrible conditions, including starvation, torture, and hanging by his wrists inside of a dark basement, refusing to deny Christ. All throughout, he always wore that Christian necklace. This man personally offered Yevgeny freedom if only he'd renounce Christ. But Yevgeny stood firm, refusing to deny Christ even on the brink of death. So on May 23rd, 1996, which is actually his birthday, Yevgeny was beheaded. But word quickly spread, and Yevgeny's own mother discovered what had happened to her son. She searched the country for him, wanting to find his body, wanting to find his corpse, and eventually she did. She found his body in a shallow grave, and she didn't believe that it was Yevgeny until she saw the cross that he was still wearing. And in a similar vein to Yevgeny Rodionov, Pancras was promised riches, fame, and glory, and he was instead beheaded because he refused to deny Jesus Christ. He was born in 290 to a pagan family in modern-day Turkey. By the age of 8, both of his parents had died, leaving him to the care of his uncle Dionysius. He then took him to Rome to live in the heart of the empire. In Rome, he was exposed to the luxury of the palaces, but also by their usage of slavery. When he asked why some people didn't have slaves, Dionysius replied, well, they're probably Christians. This would put Pancras on a path where he eventually converted to Christianity because he saw them as being more morally righteous. He was also inspired by other Christian martyrs. But during the reign of the emperor, one of the fiercest persecutions of Christians began, known as the Great Persecution, where tens of thousands of Christians were slaughtered for their faith. The emperor saw Christianity as an existential threat to their empire and gave an ultimatum to the Christians, saying, you must either deny Christ and accept our Roman pagan gods, or you'll be beheaded. Despite being just 14 years old, Pancras was arrested for his faith in Christianity and was brought before the emperor. The emperor thought this was going to be easy. He's 14, he's a teenager. He'll just deny Christ and we'll move on. But Pancras didn't deny Christ. And the emperor grew more and more confused as he offered him wealth, riches, fame. He was impressed by the young novice's unwavering courage, and he saw that Pancras could be a great Roman soldier and possibly a high politician. But still, Pancras refused, and the emperor grew more and more angry, and he ended up beheading Pancras for his disobedience. But Pancras and Jesus Christ would end up having the last laugh because this would inspire more and more Christians to convert, and the emperor was actually abdicated, removed from his post because he was so horrible. What's even crazier to believe is that the emperor Constantinople actually converted to Christianity just a couple decades later. But I just really want to live by his example and the example of our next Christian teenager who died for his faith. Jose Sanchez Del Rio, also known as Joselito, was born on March 28, 1913, in a small town in Mexico. During the 1920s, Mexico was going through a regime of anti-Catholic leaders, and their president sought to suppress the influence the church had on its country. Catholics rose up in rebellion, and this became known as the Cristero War, and Jose's family was deeply involved. At just 13 years old, Jose was determined to join the army, even though the general and his family said, you probably shouldn't do that. But one of Jose's main arguments that helped him get into the army was that if he did die, well, he would only get to heaven sooner. So, regardless, he ended up joining the army as the flag bearer to lead the soldiers into battle. But in one battle, Jose gave up his horse to save another soldier's life, leaving himself stranded and eventually captured by the Mexican government. Jose's captors, aware of his significance to the Cristero army, required him, asked him, ordered him to deny his faith, and he would live. But Jose said, no, I am with Christ. And so the Mexican government in response actually hung a soldier and said, because you refuse to deny your faith, this innocent man will die. I can only imagine Jose being distraught, but he told the man, we will meet again in heaven. While in prison, Jose wrote letters to his mother, assuring him of his commitment to God and his desire to stay faithful to Christ, no matter what the cost was. On February 10th, 1928, Jose was tortured once again. Soldiers cut off the soles of his feet and ordered him to walk barefoot throughout the streets. The soldiers taunted him and slashed him and beat him. They ordered him to shout, "Death to Christ the King." But Jose instead cried out, "Viva Cristo Rey," which is "Long live Christ the King." At the cemetery, the soldiers gave Jose one last shot to deny his faith. And in response, Jose said, "Viva Cristo Rey." Jose's body was returned to his hometown, to a burial site where thousands venerate him as a martyr. I'm not gonna lie, I started tearing up when I was reading these stories. These people literally, these teenagers, people younger than me, literally died for their faith. And so I hope that maybe this to you helps you just become inspired by your faith, and that we can all live more boldly for Christ. Christ is King. Let me know what you think in the comments and check out these other videos about Christianity. All right, bye. See ya. Have a nice day. Subscribe, like, comment. Bye-bye.